deserves congratulations, high fives, and chest bumps. So many people buy personal development books with all good intentions, but never get beyond the first few chapters. But not you. You're determined and focused and beyond ready to experience the peace of mind and the joy that comes from being paid in full. So I celebrate you. Okay, let's get into this chapter. Let me begin this section by telling you that this journey isn't about willpower, exertion, and pushing through your fears and subconscious blocks, feel the fear and do it anyway style. It's more about asking intelligent questions, tuning into your feelings and emotions, and interpreting your moment to moment experiences in relation to your vibration. It's about slowing down, listening, observing, and enjoying those bittersweet aha insights that will bring your legs to jelly in a really good way. So, first, an explanation of what I mean by resistance. Resistance is the opposite of receiving. When I think about receiving, I think of being open and expectant, open minded and open hearted, emitting a vibration that is smooth and free flowing. The positive outflow of energy is a gentle yet powerful, undulating frequency that is easy and clear in intention. Resistance, on the other hand, is like rapid, jerky, high frequency static. It's noisy and confusing. It blocks the flow of energy. It keeps you fenced in and perpetuating your current reality because you can't see beyond your present perspective. Resistance is the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that hold you apart from what you want. Negative, stinking thinking, feelings of fear and anxiety, behaviors such as procrastination, being overwhelmed, and even working to the brink of burnout are all forms of resistance. Resistance has a vibration that is counter to the free flowing vibration of receiving. I said earlier that your job is to feel good, right? That's it. When you feel good more of the time, you attract more to feel good about. When you acknowledge and appreciate those experiences that feel good, you magnetize even more. When you find yourself experiencing a negative situation, you automatically, by default, have a thought along the lines of, I don't want this. And in that moment, you have more clarity on what you do want. For example, if you're in an argument with your spouse, you emit a desire for more harmony. If you receive an unexpected bill, you emit a desire for more money. If you have an injury or illness, you emit a desire for wellness and good health. The spiritual teacher Abraham Hicks calls these emissions of desire rockets of desire. These rockets fire out into the universe and the universe is responding to you. Think of them as vibrational requests that, once made, have the universe busy gathering together all of the necessary cooperative components to bring about the physical manifestation of that desire. What stops your desires manifesting into your reality is, again, your choice of focus. You know you want harmony with your spouse, more money for your bills, and improved health because the nature of your current reality has clarified that for you. But rather than focusing on those positive desires, you stay simmering over the argument or worrying about the bill or talking about your injury or illness to whomever will listen. You keep the negative experience active in your vibration by your choice of focus. You unwittingly introduce resistance. Feeling good means holding fast to the feelings that the desire, the preferred state evokes, and riding the high vibe frequency of expectation and excitement. It means being open-minded and open-hearted in order to receive the inspired ideas, opportunities, and possibilities that start showing up in response to your new clarified energy. But instead of doing that, within a few precious moments, the mind starts chattering. I want this, but all the arguments in favor of why you can't do or have what you want start showing up. You're very adept at listing all the reasons why your desires could never be, and you justify your reasons perfectly with logic. After all, you tell yourself, you're just being realistic, based on your past experiences or what other people have told you is possible. Or if you're not already introducing reasons why you can't have what you want, you're staying focused on the very reason you launched the rocket of desire in the first place. The resultant static frequency of resistance then blocks the flow of inspiration and ideas. You're not a vibrational match to what you're asking for, so you can't experience it. The frequent analogy used by Abraham Hicks is you can't have your radio dial tuned to 98.6 FM and hear what is being broadcast on 101 AM. As you're engaging in thoughts that don't serve you, you may start feeling anxious, disappointed, or overwhelmed. The worse you feel, the worse things get. This is because the more you go down the rabbit hole of stinking thinking, the more your behaviors and actions are affected. And this is when you're likely to fall prey to procrastination, distractions, and not taking care of yourself with, say, a healthy diet and exercise. A perfect example of resistance showed up in my experience in this journey as a period of inexplicable fatigue. I was working on my business branding. I'd been in my business by this point for 3 years, and I'd never really given much thought to branding. I suppose I didn't really understand it. My business coach, Michelle, is a branding queen, and I was learning so much from her, and I was really enjoying it. However, when it came to my own branding and doing the research and creating mood boards, I just hit what felt like a mental brick wall. I was so afraid of getting it wrong. I scrolled through images and researched other websites and spent hours on Pinterest, and nothing seemed to draw me in. I didn't move forward from the branding module of the coaching program I was in with Michelle for weeks and weeks, and I was beyond frustrated. Every time I sat down to work on it, no matter the time of day, I would fall asleep right there at my desk. I opened windows, I drank water and coffee, and I'd jump up and down to re-energize myself. And each time I went back to the branding exercise, I found myself feeling overwhelmed with fatigue again. My creativity was non-existent and I couldn't find inspiration in anything. And the more I pushed it, the more mired and irritated I became. Around this same time period, I was finding myself increasingly distracted and irritated by the state of my bedroom. So let me explain. 5 years earlier, when I moved into this particular property, you may recall from my story in the values chapter that out of necessity, I became a home improvement ninja. I moved into this house. It was practically uninhabitable. My children couldn't live with me for the first month or so, so I really had to move fast and decorate the whole house. I worked on every other room and yet largely ignored my own bedroom because it just didn't feel like a priority at the time. It was actually the worst room in the house as well in terms of its aesthetic beauty. The decor was tired and in need of some loving attention, and the furniture was ugly to me. 5 years on, and I was itching to do something about it, but I just kept putting it off because logically I couldn't justify spending the money on it, and besides I was busy working in and on my business. So that just gives a bit of context. So back to business. One day, as I was sat at my screen, scrolling through images on Pinterest and agonizing again over my lack of inspiration for my branding, I felt the now familiar feeling of sleepiness. My eyelids started to get heavy and my shoulders felt like they had a colossal weight on them. I decided that enough was enough, and although it was in the middle of the day, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I decided to go to bed. I set my alarm for an hour, closed the curtains to block out the sunlight, and I crawled into my bed. Just as I lay down and pulled the duvet up to my chin, the chest of drawers across from my bed caught my eye. It was an old chest that I'd hand painted some years earlier to give it that shabby chic look. There really was nothing chic about it. I noticed details that I hadn't really noticed before. The paintwork was all chipping, and I noticed dried drips around the legs, indicative of my haste to get it painted at the time. My eyes then darted to the wall behind the chest of drawers and the slapdash paintwork. So I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, there's so much work to be done here. Then my eyes were drawn to another part of my bedroom, and within moments, I was completely alert, eyes wide, and mind buzzing with ideas of how I could improve this room. Suddenly, I was full of energy, brimming with excitement by the ideas that were flowing and the order in which I could see everything falling into place. The difference in my energy was astounding. I wasn't really fatigued at all. I was just in a state of resistance when it came to the work for my business. The impulse and urge to decorate my room was energizing and inspiring. And I will just admit to you, it took me about a week of wrestling with my conscience before I finally gave myself permission to follow my impulse and let go of the shoulds and ought tos. I imagined that I couldn't justify the time off to decorate my room, and I was in such a hurry to achieve that elusive state of success that I believed existed somewhere out there. How wrong I was. The moment I released the guilt and allowed myself to step away from my business and get to work in favor of my desires, so much good stuff started happening. I began by decluttering my wardrobe. I discovered Marie Kondo and her KonMari method of decluttering and organizing. It's pretty ruthless, but I loved it. I cleared 70% of my clothing because it was either worn out and tatty, not worn in over a year, or it simply didn't spark joy. These are the rules of the KonMari method. I hired a plasterer to skim the walls and ceiling in my bedroom, and I spent a full week doing what I love, being up and down ladders, painting and decorating my bedroom whilst listening to my favorite inspirational speakers and course training videos. My heart and mind were open. I felt expansive and creative. And of course, it's such physical work. So I was moving my body and absorbed in the moment. I was in a state of complete joy. There was no static energy in my frequency. Within the space of those 5 days, resources that I'd been wanting for my business for months showed up. No chasing, no pushing and hustling. They just showed up. For example, out of the blue, my lady who takes care of my tech offered to build me a new website aligned with my new up and coming branding if I would coach her for the next 4 months to help her achieve a big goal she'd set herself. I was thrilled because I'd been wanting a new website for as long as I could remember. Then a day later, another lady contacted me to inquire about my coaching services. Now, I'd randomly selected this lady some weeks earlier as part of a prize draw I had run in my community to win a free 90-minute coaching session with me. I remember after the session thinking, what a great lady, and what she does is exactly what I need for my business. She's an expert in automation and Facebook ads. Now, she'd come back to me because she loved the session. She wanted to work with me in my 4-month program, but funds were tight. So I took a chance and I suggested the option of an exchange of services. She was absolutely thrilled. We both were. It seems like pure chance that I'd pulled her name out of the hat for this coaching session, but considering her zone of genius and joining the dots, I feel like now it was perfect alignment. The third thing, amazingly, I got clarity on my branding. It was like the clouds had parted and I knew exactly what my messaging was and how I wanted my brand to look and feel. Oh, the power of stepping away, right? And then on day 5, my regular hairdresser responded to a text message I'd sent her the previous week. I'd asked her how much she charged for hair and makeup for a photo shoot. Since I was up leveling my brand, I wanted some new photos. She asked when my photo shoot was, and I laughingly replied, whenever I can get my daughter to take some pictures of me on her iPhone. I didn't hear back immediately, but then whilst I was up a ladder, paintbrush in hand, following my bliss, I got a text from her that said, I have a great camera. I was going to suggest we do a trade of services as I was thinking about contacting you for some coaching. And so that's exactly what we did. I coached her for a couple of sessions and she did my hair, makeup, and my photo shoot for me. So, as you can see, as I responded to my guidance, I released the struggle around the branding work. By pushing it, I wasn't moving forward. And in fact, I was blocking progress in other areas of my life. And I was just winding myself up into a frazzled mess. As counterproductive and counterintuitive as it seemed in relation to making progress in my business, I started working on my bedroom and it felt amazing. I was buzzing with renewed energy. I was literally moving myself to a frequency of creativity, inspiration, and productivity. Plus, my blissful state opened up my channels of receptivity to all of those wonderful resources that would ultimately help me escalate my progress. So once again, I'm going to share with you some journal excerpts from around that same time. And there may be a bit of repetition, but that's because literally the chapters of this book are all lifted from my journal. And then at the end of this chapter, there's a call to action for you. So journal excerpt day 39. Yesterday morning, I felt the bubbling up of overwhelm and thought about my workshop copy, big task, and my branding exercises, and my NLP work, and my client work, and I felt the rising up in my chest of anxiety. I caught it very quickly, and as I was out walking Joey and knowing how this stuff works, I reached for the next best feeling thought, which was, I always get it all done, because I always do. As I walked, I affirmed, there's always a right time. I'm loving the clarity that is coming to me around how I want to show up in my brand. And I'm enjoying the fact that I'm learning so much about myself and about business from Michelle. And it's all happening with perfect timing. Then in the afternoon, I still felt so much resistance to the branding exercise that I literally fell asleep at my laptop again. I took myself off to bed in the middle of the afternoon, my mind whizzing with guilt, so I set my alarm to limit my sleep. As soon as I lay down on my bed and let go of the tension, knowing that I obviously needed to sleep, I started looking around my bedroom. My goodness, there was no sleep forthcoming. I was suddenly no longer tired. I was excited and clarity came in around what needed to be done. I lay there thinking, I really should sleep because I was falling asleep at my laptop just a moment ago, but I'm really not tired now and I want to get up and start moving stuff around and clearing stuff away in my bedroom and calling the plasterer and so I did, and I was really not tired one bit. Recently, I've been having so many impulses and desires to clear my bedroom and redecorate. Something is so strong about this impulse that I'm just going to have to go with it. Although logically, I'm telling myself I don't have time and I don't want to spend the hundreds of pounds that I'll need. And yet, that's not me doing what I love to do and following my guidance, right? Journal excerpt day 44. I implemented the KonMari method for decluttering. It was hugely uplifting. I made some big decisions and I've bagged up 70% of my wardrobe in favour of making space and only keeping those things that spark joy. I didn't feel so much emotion around my clothes, so I got rid of quite a lot. I recognised that my attachment came from a place of lack. What if I don't have enough clothes? When I recognized that lack was the source of the feelings of fear, I became even more ruthless. I even got rid of the items that Jeremy had brought me over the years, the first lingerie he ever bought me, which now is frayed and tattered. I know, classy. A scarf that really isn't my colour or my taste. This felt hard, not because I felt sentimental, but because I didn't want to offend him. Again, I had to be conscious and deliberate, and if I was going to do this, then I was going to do it properly. Oh, my cupboards are breathy and spacious now, and I have a sense that I'll only be wearing nice clothes from now on. Listening to Abraham Hicks yesterday, and the message I heard really resonated with me. Abraham was talking about the creative process. I was thinking about my visibility online and creating videos and content. When in the flow of creativity, it feels amazing and ideas flow. Those creative ideas were always there, but we're just more open to receiving them when we're in that joyful flow state. I found this to be true. While I was enjoying sorting my room, I was bursting with inspired ideas, and throughout decluttering, I had to keep stopping and jotting notes of the ideas I was having. We can often cut ourselves off from that creative flow when we spend too long analysing what we've created and wondering and worrying about what others will make of it. Instead, we should just keep creating. Stay focused on creating more and more and staying in that high vibe place. I love it. Excerpt day 46. This has been a very exciting past few days. Pennies are dropping. We are so powerful. We have the power to create our reality. It's completely up to us. When I considered Friday's overwhelm and the reality that I hadn't got everything done and I was beating myself up, I realized how this particular experience was the physical manifestation of the thoughts and feelings that I've been putting out there for weeks. It's my dominant habit of thought in relation to time. I'm always anxious about time, like there's never enough of the stuff. And because of that, I get stressed out and I wind up saying no to my friends' invitations to walk Joey together, which means saying no to an hour of stimulating conversation and inspiration that I love. I wind up frustrated at having to break off from work to make a meal, and I'm always rushed and impatient. This means my entire vibration is one of never enough time to get it all done. So the physical reality is that I don't get it all done. Oh! Now that I know this, I can switch my focus onto exactly what I want to experience. Instead of berating myself for never enough time, I can choose to celebrate more than enough time to achieve all my tasks, knowing that every night I go to bed satisfied and every morning I wake up excited for the day ahead instead of overwhelmed and frustrated and impatient. I will affirm I love having the time to focus on my domestic life, my family, and my health. I love the gradual unfolding of my business creation, and as all the pieces come together with perfect synchronicity, I always feel in control and calm. My power in manifesting a paid in full HSBC card and a paid in full Halifax card came as a direct result of the power of my focused thought and heightened emotion. I've slowed it all down recently with my overdraft because I was blocking myself by trying to control the how. Instead of focusing on the outcome, which is an account overflowing with money, I was trying to manipulate the pounds and pence of how I was going to get it to that point. That resulted in me getting impatient and inadvertently focusing on it not happening. Impatience is a resistant vibration. Impatience is the energy of I'm not where I want to be. I have created a screenshot of my bank balance and whited out the minus sign so my account looks like it's in credit by £3,200 and 54 pence. That feels so good to imagine my account being in that position. That is where I am going to place my focus every single day. I've also been stagnant in my ideas and inspiration around my branding because I've been stuck in the how. How do I want it to look? How do I afford the photo shoot and photography? How do I decide on the final branding look? How? Focusing on the how keeps me in the energy of more questions and less clarity. As my coach Hasna says, don't focus on the how, focus on the what. That is the end result. Journal excerpt day 50. This week has been tight as I've had no money coming in and I was a little bit too hasty on slashing my overdraft facility. Whilst I am happy that I've got it down from 3,500 to 1,500, I feel a little constricted. However, there have been two major celebrations. Firstly, that there were moments this week when I thought of buying something and facing the consequences afterwards by taking credit from somewhere, all to please others, mind you. None of the purchases were really about me, and since I stopped myself, I'm celebrating that I'm breaking that unconscious habitual pattern. I'm affirming instead that I'm savvy and I'm choosing to save my money. Second point of celebration was a realization that as I'm chronicling this journey, I'm really learning how to smooth the bumps in the road to alignment. Reducing my overdraft facility and being left uncomfortably tight is a lesson in the perils of attempting to push the result. I was trying to control how it's going to happen rather than trusting the universe. By slashing my overdraft and trying to control this rather than feeling abundant and ensuring that I'm easily able to pay all of my bills, I put myself into a restricted, resistant state. I spent a lot of the past 48 hours getting back into alignment through visualizing the outcome and seeing the overflowing balance in my bank account and picturing stamping my Barclaycard statement and my Bank of Scotland statement with the big red paid in full stamp. I then was imagining all the delicious ways that I could repay Mum and Paul their £10,000. I then saw this book, published and wrapped as a gift for Jeremy. As I did this practice, I felt such immense joy, and I love knowing that I am thinking my way into a new state of being. I love knowing that through this continuous daily practice, I am creating new neural connections, and my body is literally memorizing a new abundant state. As I'm experiencing being free of debt on a daily basis, I'm becoming someone who is always in a state of alignment and easily recognizing when she's off, and therefore can shift right back into alignment. Journal excerpt day 51. I'm returning to my daily gratitude practice after the discipline wavered a little and having been away for a short break. It's easy to wobble and waver. This is perfectly natural. I am changing lifelong habits and losing an old identity in order to develop a new and more empowering personality. I am developing an entirely new state of being around the subject of money. I affirm, I am free from debt. I am paid in full. I am smart and savvy. I am an excellent money manager. I enjoy budgeting and being organized around money. I speak openly and without shame on the topic of money. I can show up with integrity and in my highest and best self. I'm actually beginning to feel inspired and called to make more upgrades to my home decor. I want my environment to reflect some of the changes as I'm growing and evolving as a person. This house is my beautiful home and a metaphor for any challenge I face in the future. This home really was the making of me as I tapped into my full potential and I became unstoppable in pursuit of the worthy cause. To not only make this house a home, but also to make this house something I can feel truly proud and accomplished in. To make my children comfortable and proud, to want to be here and feel good about being here. This helped me push through the tough times in my business. There have been times in my business when things seemed hopeless and I cried. These were painful moments. Part of me knew that my meltdowns were clearing a way to think more resourcefully and creatively, but at the same time, I cried from feelings of acute rejection and dejection. How was I ever going to make this work? I'd feel swamped, overwhelmed, and powerless. But then I remember how I tackled the mammoth task of making this house a home, how I stepped up to the plate time and time again, despite so many difficulties at the time. I made it happen. And now it's time for me to rise again, to roll up my sleeves and get to work, to list everything that needs to happen and make it happen. I realize how much I've been sabotaging my progress, beating myself up, resisting making a daily to-do list, and getting deeply emotional and attached to every outcome. Now is the time to redress the balance, to get strategic and just act like a snowplow and take massive action on behalf of myself, my business, and my clients. Journal excerpt day 56. I've noticed I've created a sense of relaxation around time, which is huge. The resistance is easing after just 2 weeks of affirming that I have more than enough time. I feel so productive. I'm appreciative of the journey and I'm way more sensitive to my feelings. Normally, I would push aside decorating, for example, in favor of working on my business. But yesterday, I found myself getting all balled up inside over a corner of my home. Yep, a corner. I was getting really irritated by how ugly it was, and no matter what pictures and vases I arranged in that corner, I still found it ugly. A few minutes later, I then gave Jeremy a lift to work, and in giving space to my thoughts, I realised that what that corner needed was a new colour. I decided there and then that I needed to paint the wall. That was it. Instant joy and bliss at the prospect of more painting while giving me the perfect opportunity to plug into some more Abraham Hicks videos. This feel-good thought was too good to ignore, so I took the necessary detour on the way back from dropping Jeremy off, bought the paint, and started my mini project. After decorating my bedroom, I feel like I've got the decorating bug again. Exciting news! A week ago, I thought to myself, I could do with £1,000. I could do with that amount to cover my mortgage next week. I felt pretty confident that I could do that, although I'd started getting a little angsty about the prospect of having to borrow again. But then I rationalised that I still have 5 days before all my main outgoings were due. On day 3 of the 5, I messaged a prospect about an offer of coaching for £997. No response. On the evening of the 4th working day, Thursday, I journaled on my power to create and I set a broad and non-specific intention for the next day, Friday, to be an awesome day. I was going to have a wonderful day and I started to feel excited. That Friday, I received £997 and my bank account hasn't looked this abundant and healthy in such a long time. And all my bills are covered and then some. I'm loving playing these games with the universe and I'm excited by my ability to create whatever I want. End of journal excerpt. I was nervous about taking time away from my business to paint my home because I was being impatient and rushing to achieve my goals. Impatience carries a vibration of I'm not there yet and is coming from a negative place and keeps you stuck right where you are. Whenever you begin to feel impatient, appreciate and bless where you are now with excitement for your continued progress. As I reflect on this part of the journey, I'm once again struck by the speed at which the universe changed and always changes course to reflect our efforts and our new focus. At this point, I'm less than 2 months into my paid in full journey, and through daily practices of gratitude, visualization, and self-awareness through journaling, I'm more receptive to downloads of inspired clarity, ideas, and intelligence. I'm becoming masterful at massaging my thoughts and tuning into my emotions in order to achieve a heightened state of alignment and receptivity. And my physical reality is shifting in response. Call to action. When you experience resistance in your vibration, the fastest ways to release are to 1. change the subject. Quite literally, take yourself away from the subject that is causing the resistance. You may choose to meditate to quiet the thoughts, or go for a walk or run with music, or with a friend who you can talk about anything with. Of course, that isn't the topic causing the resistance. Or go take a nap if the thoughts are so distracting and you have a lot of momentum behind them. Taking a nap resets your vibration, so long as when you wake up, you don't immediately focus back on the problem. The second way to release the resistance in your vibration is to align with the vibrational frequency of what you want to achieve by doing something easier that has a matching frequency. So, for example, I wanted to get creative with my branding, but I was stuck. So I got creative with decorating my bedroom, and that put me in an aligned state to receive the ideas for my brand. And of course, I received a whole lot more too. So let's take a couple of examples of common states that my clients experience that you may resonate with, and what to do to shift them. The first is feeling and being out of control, and the second is feeling and being unproductive. So, if you're feeling out of control and you're stuck on that frequency in relation to your money and debt management, you're likely manifesting stress and poor decision making. You want to feel in control, but right now, where money is concerned, it's too big a leap, vibrationally speaking. The solution is to seek easier baby step ways to perpetuate feelings of being in control. So ask yourself, where else in my life can I take action to feel more in control? Perhaps there's an out of control drawer stuffed full of paperwork, or a messy shoe cupboard that desperately needs sorting. Take the necessary action and organize it to raise your in control focus and frequency. Notice other areas of your life where you do exercise control. For example, your great timekeeping, or the fact that you always make healthy food choices, and celebrate these. With practice and a little bit of time, you will shift the needle and make being in control a more dominant vibration within you. And this will impact how you feel and the results you manifest around your finances. The other example, if you're beating yourself up for having an unproductive week like I was, and that is keeping you in a vibration of stuck, then just as with out of control, start affirming productivity and get yourself engaged in tasks that you can take immediate action on with ease. Tasks that help you feel productive. Again, this is about taking baby steps to incrementally shift your frequency to match the state you want to create. You may be thinking, hang on a minute, Sanae, this sounds a lot like permission to procrastinate. Listen, I'm not telling you to go clean the shoe cupboard to avoid working on your business. This is about shifting your frequency so you're empowered to do more and feel good doing it instead of trying to force an outcome.